In the aftermath of former President Donald Trump's second impeachment trial, 7 Republican senators made a historic decision by voting to convict him on the charge of incitement to insurrection. Now, years later, where are they? Some have quietly faded from the political spotlight, transitioning into private life, while others remain in the Senate, continuing to navigate a party still deeply influenced by Trump. Here's a look at what happened to the 7 GOP senators who defied Trump and where they stand today. Richard Burr. As a veteran lawmaker who had served 3 terms in the Senate, Burr had built a reputation as a pragmatic Republican, often prioritizing policy work over public confrontations. However, his vote to convict Trump placed him squarely in the national spotlight, particularly given the political climate in his home state of North Carolina, where Trump remained immensely popular among Republican voters. Burr had already announced in 2016 that he would not seek re-election in 2022, a decision that afforded him a level of political freedom that many of his Republican colleagues did not have. Unlike others in his party who feared backlash from pro-Trump constituents and potential primary challengers, Burr had little to lose electorally. Nevertheless, his vote was not without consequences. The North Carolina Republican Party swiftly condemned his decision, issuing a formal censure that underscored the deep loyalty of the state's Republican base to Trump. The censure was largely symbolic, but served as a clear signal that Burr's stance was out of step with the prevailing sentiment among GOP voters in North Carolina. Throughout his tenure, Burr had generally aligned with mainstream Republican positions, particularly on issues such as tax policy, national security, and health care. As chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee, he played a key role in overseeing investigations into Russian interference in the 2016 election, at times drawing criticism from Trump allies for the committee's bipartisan approach. Despite these occasional tensions, Burr largely avoided high-profile political battles and was not known as a vocal critic of Trump during his presidency. This made his vote to convict even more striking, as it suggested a willingness to break with party orthodoxy in what he viewed as an essential matter of constitutional responsibility. Following his departure from the Senate in January 2023, Burr largely withdrew from the political arena, opting for a quiet transition into private life. Unlike some former lawmakers who remain active in policy discussions or take on roles as political commentators, Burr has refrained from public statements on major political developments. His absence from public discourse stands in contrast to the continued prominence of the impeachment vote in Republican politics, where those who opposed Trump often faced significant political repercussions. Burr's legacy remains a complex one. While his impeachment vote cemented his place among a small group of Republicans willing to hold Trump accountable for his role in the Capitol riot, his broader political career was defined more by steady conservatism than by public defiance of party leadership. His departure from office marked the end of an era in which establishment Republicans like him increasingly found themselves at odds with the party's Trump-aligned base. Whether his decision to convict Trump will shape how he is remembered in the long term remains an open question, but it undeniably represented one of the most consequential moments of his political career. Bill Cassidy, representing Louisiana, a state where Trump enjoyed overwhelming support, Cassidy's vote was a bold break from the Republican mainstream and placed him among the small group of GOP senators who prioritized constitutional duty over party loyalty. He later described his vote as the result of a thorough review of the evidence, emphasizing that he believed Trump's actions had directly contributed to the attack on the Capitol. Cassidy's vote drew immediate backlash from the Louisiana Republican Party, which quickly moved to censure him. The formal rebuke underscored the political risks he faced in a state where Trump remained deeply popular, and it signaled a growing divide within the Republican Party between traditional conservatives and Trump-aligned populists. Despite the censure, Cassidy maintained that he had acted in accordance with his oath to the Constitution rather than out of political calculation. In 2023, when Trump was indicted on charges related to the mishandling of classified documents, Cassidy took another notable step away from the former president by publicly suggesting that Trump should step aside from the 2024 presidential race. His comments reflected growing concerns among some establishment Republicans about Trump's legal troubles and their potential impact on the party's electoral prospects. Cassidy's position aligned him with a faction of GOP lawmakers who were looking for alternatives to Trump's leadership, believing that his continued dominance in the party could jeopardize Republican success in future elections. However, after Trump secured the Republican nomination for the 2024 presidential race, Cassidy declined to endorse him, maintaining a cautious distance. This stance set him apart from many of his Republican colleagues who quickly fell in line behind Trump despite past criticisms. Yet, as the election drew closer, Cassidy appeared to gradually rekindle his support for the former president, signaling a pragmatic shift in response to political realities. His renewed backing of Trump suggested an effort to navigate the complex dynamics within the Republican Party, where opposing Trump too strongly could alienate key conservative voters. Despite his eventual support for Trump's candidacy, Cassidy remained critical of certain actions taken by the former president, particularly regarding Trump's pledges to pardon individuals convicted of assaulting police officers during the January 6th Capitol riot. Cassidy expressed concern over these pardons, emphasizing the importance of upholding the rule of law and protecting law enforcement officers. His remarks highlighted an ongoing internal conflict within the GOP over how to address the events of January 6th and the broader implications of Trump's influence on the party's future direction. Looking ahead to his 2026 re-election campaign, Cassidy faces the challenge of appealing to both moderates and conservatives in Louisiana. His political future may hinge on his ability to strike a balance between his past willingness to break with Trump and his more recent efforts to align with the party's shifting priorities. If he can successfully navigate this complex political landscape, he may be able to secure another term in the Senate. However, if Louisiana's Republican base remains firmly pro-Trump and views Cassidy's past criticisms as disqualifying, he could face a serious primary challenge from a more Trump-aligned candidate. Susan Collins. As a self-described moderate Republican from Maine, Collins has often walked a delicate line between her party's conservative base and the independent-minded voters who have repeatedly secured her re-election. Her vote to convict Trump following the January 6, 2021, attack on the Capitol drew sharp criticism from conservatives but earned her praise from Democrats and centrist voters who saw her as a rare Republican willing to hold Trump accountable. Unlike some of her Republican colleagues who faced swift censures from their state parties, Collins avoided formal reprimand from the Maine GOP. However, this did not shield her from political fallout within the increasingly Trump-aligned Republican Party. Many Trump loyalists now regard her as an adversary, a sentiment that could pose challenges for her in the 2026 election. While she has never fully embraced Trump's wing of the party, Collins has consistently worked to maintain her political viability by appealing to moderates and independents, a strategy that has helped her win multiple competitive races in a state that leans Democratic in presidential elections. Collins's approach to the 2024 presidential race further underscored her resistance to Trump's influence. Unlike many of her Republican colleagues who either endorsed Trump or remained silent, Collins openly expressed her preference for former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley. She went a step further by announcing that she would write in Haley's name on the November ballot rather than supporting Trump as the Republican nominee. This move reaffirmed her position as a moderate within the GOP, but also solidified her reputation as an outlier in a party where loyalty to Trump remains a dominant force. Despite Republicans securing a 53-seat majority in the Senate, Collins is expected to continue her independent streak, particularly in opposing Trump's key nominations. Her moderate stance has often put her at odds with the more conservative elements of her party, especially on issues related to executive appointments. Recently, she broke ranks with the GOP by opposing Trump's nominee for Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, during a critical Senate procedural vote. While the details of her opposition were not immediately clear, her willingness to defy her party on such an important nomination signals that she intends to maintain her autonomy even with Republicans in control of the chamber. As Collins looks ahead to her 2026 re-election campaign, she faces a complex political landscape. While she has consistently defied political odds in Maine, her ability to appeal to both moderates and conservatives will again be tested. Trump's influence over the Republican Party remains strong, and a primary challenge from a Trump-backed candidate is a possibility. However, Collins has demonstrated resilience in the past, most notably in 2020 when she secured re-election despite a concerted Democratic effort to unseat her. Ben Sasse. Despite the backlash, Sasse largely dismissed the censure, arguing that his decision was based on principle rather than party loyalty. He had long positioned himself as an intellectual conservative, frequently criticizing Trump's influence on the GOP and warning that the party was drifting away from its traditional values. However, his stance increasingly isolated him within the Republican Party, making his future in national politics uncertain. In 2023, Sasse made the unexpected decision to resign from the Senate to become the president of the University of Florida, a move that surprised many in political circles. While he framed his departure as an opportunity to focus on higher education and step away from the hyper-partisan nature of Washington, some viewed it as a strategic retreat from a party that had largely turned against him. By leaving the Senate before the end of his term, Sasse avoided a potentially difficult re-election campaign in 2026, where he could have faced a formidable Trump-backed challenger. Upon assuming the presidency of the University of Florida, Sasse pledged to modernize the institution and champion free speech on campus, a priority that aligned with many conservative viewpoints on higher education. However, his tenure was marked by controversy and growing discontent. Faculty and students expressed concerns about his appointment, questioning his lack of experience in academic administration and his political history as a vocal critic of Trump. Despite these challenges, Sasse pressed forward with his vision for the university. Just a year into the role, however, Sasse made another surprising announcement: his resignation as university president. He cited his wife's health issues as the primary reason for stepping down, stating that he needed to prioritize his family. While his explanation was met with sympathy, the abrupt nature of his departure raised questions about the circumstances surrounding his tenure at the university. In the wake of his resignation, reports surfaced that Sasse had presided over unusually high spending as university president, directing substantial funds toward lucrative consulting contracts and high-paid remote positions for former Senate staffers and GOP allies. This revelation sparked scrutiny, particularly among faculty and students who had already been skeptical of his leadership. Some critics argued that Sasse had used his position to financially benefit his political allies rather than focusing on the university's core mission. His departure from both politics and academia has left his future uncertain. While some speculate that he may attempt a return to public office, the controversies surrounding his resignation from the University of Florida could complicate such ambitions. Additionally, his strained relationship with the pro-Trump faction of the GOP means that a political comeback within the current Republican landscape would be challenging. Lisa Murkowski. As the senior senator from Alaska, Murkowski had long walked a fine line between Republican Party orthodoxy and her state's unique political landscape, which values pragmatism over strict partisan loyalty. Her decision to convict Trump placed her among a small group of Republicans willing to challenge the former president directly, a stance that came with serious political consequences. Following her vote, the Alaska Republican Party moved swiftly to censure her, formalizing its disapproval and aligning itself more closely with Trump's wing of the GOP. In addition to the censure, Murkowski faced a primary challenge from Kelly Tshibaka, a Trump-backed candidate who sought to unseat her in the 2022 Senate race. Many political analysts predicted that Murkowski's career was nearing its end, as Trump's influence over the Republican Party remained strong, and primary challengers backed by the former president had succeeded in ousting other GOP incumbents who had broken ranks with him. However, Murkowski's deep-rooted connections with Alaska's voters, particularly independents and moderate Republicans, helped her defy expectations. Unlike many other states, Alaska's electorate is not strictly partisan, with a significant number of voters unaffiliated with either major party. Murkowski capitalized on this, presenting herself as a reliable representative of Alaskan interests rather than a partisan figure tied to national political battles. A key factor in her survival was Alaska's ranked choice voting system, which allowed voters to rank candidates in order of preference rather than casting a single vote for one candidate. This system benefited Murkowski, as she was able to appeal to a broader coalition, including moderate Democrats and independents, who preferred her over the more staunchly conservative Tshibaka. In the final tally, Murkowski secured re-election, demonstrating that her brand of politics, one based on bipartisanship and independence, still resonated with Alaskans despite the broader rightward shift of the Republican Party. Since her re-election, Murkowski has continued to maintain a centrist position in the Senate, frequently siding with Democrats on key issues and solidifying her role as one of the most unpredictable votes in Congress. While she remains a registered Republican, her opposition to Trump has not wavered, and recent Senate hearings suggest she will likely maintain her alignment with Democrats on various policy matters. Whether it be judicial nominations, infrastructure spending, or environmental policies, Murkowski has demonstrated a willingness to break from her party when she believes it is in Alaska's best interest. Her stance on Trump remains particularly notable, as she has been consistently critical of him since his initial run in 2015. Unlike some Republican senators who have attempted to reconcile with Trump following their initial opposition, Murkowski has remained steadfast in her disapproval, refusing to support his leadership and making it clear that she believes his influence on the party has been detrimental. Looking ahead to her next re-election campaign in 2028, Murkowski's political future will once again depend on her ability to navigate Alaska's unique electorate. While Trump's influence within the GOP remains strong, Murkowski has already demonstrated that she can overcome party opposition and win with a broad coalition of voters. The ranked choice voting system will likely continue to work in her favor, allowing her to draw support from outside the Republican base. However, challenges remain. If Trump or a similarly hardline conservative figure dominates the GOP in the coming years, Murkowski may face renewed efforts to unseat her. Additionally, if Alaska's political landscape shifts further to the right, she could struggle to maintain her centrist appeal. But given her track record of defying political odds, it would be unwise to count her out. Mitt Romney's opposition to Trump was not new. Their discord dated back years before the impeachment votes. In March 2016, as Trump was surging toward the Republican presidential nomination, Romney, then a widely respected elder statesman of the party, delivered a scathing speech urging GOP voters to reject Trump. He warned that Trump's leadership would be disastrous for the party and the country, calling him a fraud and a phony, while appealing to Republicans to coalesce around a more traditional conservative candidate. Trump, never one to let criticism go unanswered, quickly fired back, mocking Romney as a failed politician and reminding the public of his unsuccessful presidential campaigns in 2008 and 2012. He ridiculed Romney's loss to Barack Obama in 2012, portraying him as weak and ineffective. Despite this hostility, their relationship took an unexpected turn in 2018, when Romney ran for the U.S. Senate in Utah. Trump ultimately endorsed Romney's candidacy, though their alliance remained uneasy. Once elected to the Senate, Romney quickly emerged as one of the few Republican lawmakers willing to directly challenge Trump's influence over the party. His 2020 vote to convict Trump in the first impeachment trial made history, as he became the first senator ever to vote to remove a president of his own party from office. While other Republicans hesitated to openly confront Trump, Romney repeatedly called out what he saw as ethical and constitutional violations, further alienating himself from the GOP's Trump-aligned base. Following the January 6, 2021 attack on the Capitol, Romney once again stood apart from most of his party. He condemned Trump's role in inciting the violence, arguing that the former president had violated his oath of office by encouraging an attack on the democratic process. His vote to convict Trump in the second impeachment trial reinforced his reputation as a principled conservative unwilling to bend to political pressure, but it also solidified his status as a pariah among Trump supporters. Facing mounting hostility from within his party, Romney announced in 2023 that he would not seek re-election in 2024. In his announcement, he cited the need for a new generation of leaders and expressed concerns about the direction of both the Republican Party and American politics as a whole. While he did not explicitly blame Trump for his decision, it was clear that the deepening divide between himself and the Trump-aligned GOP made another term politically challenging. Despite stepping away from the Senate, Romney remains a significant figure in American politics. His departure symbolizes the diminishing space for traditional conservatives who prioritize institutional norms and governance over party loyalty to Trump. While some Republicans praised Romney for his willingness to stand on principle, others saw his exit as proof that the party had fully transformed under Trump's leadership. Pat Toomey. Unlike some of his GOP colleagues who faced primary challenges or intense pressure to resign, Toomey had already announced his retirement before casting his vote. This meant he was insulated from immediate electoral consequences, allowing him to act without the looming threat of a re-election campaign. Nevertheless, Trump's supporters in Pennsylvania viewed his decision as a betrayal, and his standing within the state's Republican circles suffered as a result. Toomey's career had long been defined by his commitment to conservative economic principles. A former investment banker and president of the Club for Growth, he built a reputation as a staunch fiscal conservative who prioritized tax cuts, deregulation, and free market policies. He was instrumental in pushing for the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, one of the signature legislative achievements of the Trump administration. Despite his disagreements with Trump on issues of character and governance, Toomey had largely supported the administration's economic agenda, making his break with Trump over impeachment even more striking. Following his departure from the Senate in 2023, Toomey largely withdrew from public political debates, opting instead to focus on private sector endeavors. While some former senators transition into high-profile media roles or remain active in policy discussions, Toomey has taken a quieter path, reflecting on his time in office and maintaining a low profile. His post-Senate career has reportedly included work in the financial sector, where his background in banking and fiscal policy continues to be an asset. Despite his retreat from public life, Toomey's legacy remains a subject of debate within Pennsylvania politics. His vote to convict Trump is viewed by some as an act of courage and integrity, while others within the GOP see it as an unforgivable betrayal. The political landscape in Pennsylvania has also continued to shift, with Trump-backed candidates playing a significant role in shaping the future of the state's Republican Party. While Toomey has not ruled out returning to public service in some capacity, there is little indication that he has any interest in re-entering the political fray. Given the current state of the GOP, which remains largely aligned with Trump, it is unlikely that Toomey would find a welcoming base within the party in the near future. Instead, his future appears to lie in the private sector, where his expertise in economic policy and financial markets continues to be in demand. As time passes, Toomey's role in Trump's second impeachment trial may be remembered as a defining moment in his career, one that underscored his willingness to break with his party when he believed it was necessary. Whether his brand of conservatism, focused on fiscal responsibility rather than populist rhetoric, will regain prominence in the Republican Party remains to be seen. For now, however, Toomey remains on the sidelines, quietly observing the political shifts that continue to shape both Pennsylvania and the nation. What do you think about these Republican senators? Leave us your comments in the section below. We hope you have found this helpful video. Don't forget to leave a like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you like it. Thank you for watching this and see you in the next videos. Goodbye.